Welcome one and all. Sabhi ko namaste. In this get together of family get together, rather we can see, and nice to see we have all gathered here before time also. Namaste Arjun Bhaiya, Namaste Priya Didi, Namaste Manoj Di, Dari Namaste, Sabhi ko namaste, and welcome all the participants. We have a couple of minutes left, so we will start formally by 7:30. Till then, we would like to hear from you if you have any reflection, sharing.
Namaste, Bhaiya.
Namaste, Namaste Arjun Bhaiya, Namaste, welcome. So we have a couple of minutes left. We will start. Yeah. Till then, we like to hear from Rangnath ji. Ji Rangnath Bhaiya, namaste.
Namaste, Parikshit Bhaiya. Namaste, Arjun.
Namaste, Namaste Priya Didi, Namaste.
I want to just share one
Namaste.
thing. Namaste. Actually,
Sure, Didi.
I started taking for my final year students the UHV content today. Actually, they don't have a class or anything. But I thought that I was thinking in the mind they are going after 1 year. They will be going out of the college, and this batch I had a special. I don't know. I should not tell like that. I am in one batch or something. Other batches at least had heard the UHV content because 2019 it started, no. But this batch doesn't know anything. So I thought I'll take a class subject for them, technical subject. So there'll be a lot of free timing periods for them. So I thought today one teacher was absent, so I got the opportunity. One period I took my class, then the next hour I started the UHV session from the first module itself. And it is a very nice, the students are also very keen to learn from them. Since I will be speaking in the regional language, no, it becomes very interactive, and it was a very nice session. So I think I'll be able to complete the 13 chapters, and when they slowly portions are covered, then I'll come tell them to enter the session also, our session also.
Nice to hear.
Nice, Priya Didi. And it's really, we have to took the responsibility to take this content and sharing the value with more and more people and with more and more ease. So it's really nice. Gesture. Yeah.
Namaste.
Ji Rangnath ji, namaste.
Namaste.
Maisa ji, namaste. Welcome.
Namaste, Arjun.
Namaste.
And namaste to all the participants. I was listening to Priyaji, even Priyaji sharing a while ago. Very nice. Though I had to leave the session. So Arjun, we are going to talk of harmony in family today. We were talking of harmony in family.
Last time we had talked about trust. So in this session, we'll talk more about respect.
Right. So namaste to all the participants. We'll take our journey forward into getting to know the content of harmony in family, and we'll continue to get to know more about trust, respect, and the other values in a human relationship. With this, I welcome all to the follow-up session, and I'll hand over the session to Arjun so that we can take the content forward and get to know about very many things.
So good evening, everyone. Yeah, good evening, everyone. In today's session, we'll talk about respect, what we mean by respect, and also some misconceptions about respect. So we'll discuss this today. And just to recap, if we are always aware of this fact that, our basic human aspiration is of continuous happiness and prosperity, then whenever we start having any issues, if we just remember that, what we want after all our efforts and all is continuous happiness and prosperity. And when we look at happiness, it is simply to be in harmony. That means what you are in terms of your feelings, in terms of your thoughts, in terms of your actions also, what you are and what you really want to be, or your natural acceptance, both are aligned. So when they are aligned, then you're in harmony. And that harmony we are calling as happiness. So we have already discussed about, excitement as a different state, which is not really harmony. It's a state where we have assumed it to be happiness, but it's actually excitement. So we had talked about that also earlier. And when we look at the program for fulfillment of this human aspiration of continuous happiness and prosperity, then it has to do with, first of all, understanding the harmony, understanding the human being, understanding the family, society, nature, and existence, and then living in harmony at all these four levels. So anyway, we are living at all these four levels because anyway, we are a part of the society, we are a part of a family, we are part of nature, and so on. So we are already living at all these four levels. But with the right understanding, we have the potential to live in harmony at all these four levels. So that is the difference. And also about the process, we've seen that the process of understanding is by verifying some of these proposals which we are sharing and trying to validate them on the basis of your own natural acceptance. So it's not on the basis of some previous assumptions which you may have, or on the basis of some ideas which have come from different places, or it's not even because someone has said it, or because it's supposed to be that way in society, or all these are like preconditionings or assumptions which we may have. So we don't want to use that for validating our these proposals. What we want to use is natural acceptance, which is our what we can call inner voice, or something which is there inside us, which we can always refer to and which can always guide us. So we're referring to a point inside which is able to give us the right answer. Like, for example, if we ask, do you want to be happy or unhappy? Then people say happy. So if you look at where this answer is coming from, you'll see that it's not coming from someone who has told you that you should be happy, or someone who has said that you have to do this or that or something. It's coming from a place inside you, and it looks like a very obvious thing, right? Like, do you want to be in relationship or opposition? So you'll say you want to be in relationship. If you say that, then like it comes so spontaneously and so naturally. But then if you really look at where that answer is coming from, that is coming from your natural acceptance. So in the same way, we can look at all these proposals in detail and try to verify them on the basis of your natural acceptance. And it's also important to note that natural acceptance doesn't have much to do with likes and dislikes. Like, somebody might like a certain choice of food, somebody else might like something else. But natural acceptance is to do with health versus not health, like that. So the difference is in the bigger blocks. When you look at the root of things, then you can really see what natural acceptance is. And when you look at certain choices based on our likes and dislikes, that is a different thing. That is not to do with natural acceptance. So that also can be clarified. Now, when we look at harmony in the family, we've seen that in terms of the human being, we are able to see that the human being is a coexistence of self and body. So that is the first thing that which we have discussed a couple of weeks back, that the human being is a coexistence of self and body, and the self is the one that is able to give instructions to the body as to what the self is to do. What the body is supposed to do, and how the body is supposed to respond to whatever the self is wanting the body to do. So like that, we can see that the self is the one who has the primary role in all these things. And also, the self is the one who can enjoy happiness or unhappiness, not the body. The body uh, the body is a material kind of a unit, whereas the self is a consciousness unit. And therefore, the self is the one who has potential to understand also. The self is the one that has the happiness, unhappiness, and all these feelings, trust, respect, affection, all these feelings are in the self, they are not in the body. So this is what we have discussed so far. And these feelings can be communicated also, they can be expressed, they can be first of all recognized within the self, and then they can be expressed. They can be expressed from one self to the other self via the body. Like we use the body to communicate, right? We use the body to talk, we use the body to say namaste, to to whatever hand gestures we make or whatever things we are doing, that is how we are able to express that respect. So we're using the body to express it. But if we look at where the feelings are in the self, and we're just instructing the self to do certain gestures or say certain words in order to express that feeling. But the feeling is not in the body. So you can see this difference also, right? And now we can see that these 9 feelings which we are writing over here, these can be recognized. These can be recognized, and they're definite, as in they have a particular meaning to them, which we'll discuss one by one. Last time we had discussed about trust, and slowly we'll discuss about all the feelings. And the proposal is that the fulfillment of these feelings leads to mutual happiness. Mutual happiness means happiness within yourself and also happiness within the other. And when we go to the family level, it means happiness within the whole family. And then that can be translated into the society and finally into the whole of nature and existence. So on the right, you can see this flowchart kind of a thing where we've written that understanding relationship and then accepting the relationship. Once you understand the relationship, then you have the acceptance for that relationship. And once you have that acceptance for that relationship, then automatically you feel something towards that person or that, whatever you have the relationship with, whether it may be a person or whether it may be a group of people or whether it may be the whole nature or the whole of existence or the society, whatever it may be. When you have the acceptance for the relationship, then you will automatically feel towards that, right? So you have that feeling of relationship, and that itself gives you some happiness because you feel that you're related to the other. Like if you feel that you're related to one person, then it gives you a certain level of happiness. If you feel like you're related to 10 people, it gives you a little more happiness, right? You feel like there are more people who you are related to. And similarly, if you feel like you're related to everyone, then it leads to a very high level of happiness where you're able to, you know, uh, feel very comfortable within yourself as well as in living with other people also, because you feel that everyone is related to you. So that is um, what we'll discuss in the next couple of sessions. That is the ultimate state where we want to be, such that we are very very comfortable within, and we're also able to we're also able to communicate that with others. We're also able to have that feeling for all. So that is the ideal state where we want to reach. Right now we may have that feeling of relatedness towards 1 or 2 people or 3 people or 5 people or 10 people, where we are having that feeling of being related to the other. But this can expand to all also. So this is all about happiness in yourself and mutual happiness. How you can translate the happiness in yourself with the right understanding all the way up to like feeling related to all. So in the feelings we had discussed about trust earlier. Before we go into respect, we can maybe ask this question that were you able to distinguish between trust on intention versus competence? Are you able to see the difference between the trust on intention versus the competence? You can answer yes or no in the chat. And then after that, we'll discuss a little bit about that if there's any query or comment about that, and then we'll go into respect. So is there any comment or question about this aspect of trust? Trust on intention and competence. Are we able to separate these two things and look at somebody else also and look at ourselves also and be able to distinguish between these two aspects of trust? And are we able to see that we can make the right evaluation based on the person's competence and also on the basis of the person's intention? And look at these two things separately. Look at our intention, look at the other person's intention. Look at our competence, look at the other person's competence. And on the basis of all these things, make a program of how to go forward with that transaction or with that relationship or whatever it may be. Even if it's a transaction with a shopkeeper or whatever it may be, or if it is a relationship between two people, or if it is a relationship in the family, or if it is whatever it may be, if it is a meeting with a stranger on the road, whatever it may be, we can look at these two components separately, look at their intention and also look at their competence, look at our intention, look at our competence, and on that basis, make a program of how to handle that situation or how to go about having that meeting or whatever we are doing. So are we able to see the difference clearly between intention and competence? That's the question. That is what we want to say, that you can answer yes or no in the chat, so that once we are clear on trust, then we can talk about respect.
Arjun, can you just tell that some students were not there last class? Just that content, no, that I want to be happy. Just that will be okay, I think, for them.
That if we take, then we won't be able to talk about respect. Or should we take that next time? Because that may take some time. So
okay.
Because if or else they can actually go back to that video if it's there. That must be there, right, on YouTube.
Yeah, that video is there. I'll sell. But just the trust that no, they might have some students who are attended. They might have forgotten also that that I want to be happy and.
Okay. So maybe they can ask whatever specific question if they have, if they've attended. If they haven't attended, then it's actually better to see the whole video on YouTube, because otherwise it won't be clear, right? If we just do it quickly, because that is important to kind of look at in a little more detail. So if any question is there or any comment about it, any doubt, then we can discuss that right now. Any student also, or any teacher, or anyone, whoever has any comment or question about trust, can raise your hand also, or you can ask in the chat, either way.
Arjun sir, I have a doubt. That is, last time we discussed about this competence when we talked about trust, but when it came to respect, I'm a bit confused about the right meaning of competence that you're referring to. Can you make that a bit clear when it comes to respect and trust?
Yeah, when we talk about respect, then we'll talk about what exactly this right evaluation means. So then that'll be like that is a little bit different from how we are using evaluation to judge the person's competence and to judge the person's intention. So basically, when we look at the intention of somebody, then if we are able to see that our natural acceptance is giving us a certain answer, like suppose you ask this question that do you want to be happy, or um, like yes or no. If we ask that, do you want to be happy all the time, yes or no, and if you're saying yes, and that answer is coming from your natural acceptance, then slowly you may realize that everyone's natural acceptance is the same. Like likes and dislikes, opinions, all these things may keep varying based on the inputs that are coming from outside, based on our preconditioning, our assumptions, and so on. But our natural acceptance is something which is universal, something which is the same for all. So if you're able to look at this much, if you're able to see this much by maybe analyzing or looking at a few people and being able to conclude that this is true for all, if you're able to do that much, then we'll see that the intention is right, but the competence or ability may be lacking. And when we're talking about competence or the ability, it may not be just in the action. It may not just be in doing a certain skill or doing some performing a certain task or something. It could as well be the competence lacking in the field of understanding. Like somebody could lack that right understanding which we are talking about, and therefore make choices which are uncomfortable for us. And therefore we can say that that person lacks the competence. So even before the person does some action outside, we can still evaluate their competence based on our understanding and based on looking at the other person's looking at all the things that the other person is doing. We can conclude about their competence. Like, for example, this question came up a few times earlier, right? That if there's a train, we are going in a train, then we don't want to leave our suitcase unlocked, or we don't want to leave our mobile phone on the seat and then go to the toilet because somebody might take it. So that is of course possible. And when you're saying trust on intention, it doesn't mean that you leave the door open of the house, you don't lock it, or you don't take care of your whatever gadgets or things. What it means is that you look at the person's intention, and then you look at the person's competence. You look at your intention, look at your competence, and on that basis, you make a plan of action. So in this case, you look at the other person and say that, okay, this person may have the right understanding and he may not also, and I'm not sure about it. So therefore, I should take the precaution to keep my belongings safe and all that, and therefore I will lock my suitcase in the train. So like that, you've made an action plan based on your competence, based on your intention, based on the other person's intention, and looking at the other person's competence. And if you have doubt about the other person's competence, then you just try to take more precautions, right? That's all. The other person may not steal also from you, but you don't know. So therefore you take precautions. But that doesn't mean that you lose trust on that person's intention. That person might want to be happy, and he may or may not know the right method for that. And even we are like that, right? We want to be happy, but we may or may not know the right method to be happy all the time. So we are trying various things, making various efforts. So in the same way, the other person also might be like that. But the other person may decide um, to what do you call it? To steal something also, because he might think that that is also okay, that is also fine, because it brings him happiness. That's his illusion. But anyway, the fact is that when we look at our competence, we look at the other person's competence, then it helps to analyze, and therefore we can make some plan of action. So we look at both aspects. We don't look at only the competence or only the intention. So therefore, like, if this question comes up that should we trust everybody blindly, then the answer is very clear, right? That we don't trust everybody's competence. We don't know everybody's competence, right? So if we don't know, then we obviously want to take precautions. But we can trust everybody's intention if we are able to see that our natural acceptance is for something and the other person's natural acceptance also would be for that. So initially that would be an assumption, because we are assuming that the other person's natural acceptance is same as ours. But over time, if it becomes clear, then you'll be able to see that the other person's intention is also the same as yours. And we're not saying that you have to believe that or disbelieve it. We're just saying that you can keep it open as of now and keep doing this self-exploration process. And then if you get that answer, then it becomes clear to you. If you don't get that answer, then you can keep exploring and see what you get out of it. And then on that basis, you take your action steps. So that was a little bit long, but I think somewhat would have become more clear, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So now we'll talk about respect. So when we're talking about right evaluation, what exactly are we evaluating, and if there's any guesses about this or any kind of comments, then you can write in the chat, or you can take the mic also. So when we are talking about right evaluation, we are talking about the intention and the competence. We're looking at how we looked at it for trust. We are able to see that we are able to like look at the same things, and then on that basis, if we have trust means we have the trust on intention, and we are able to rightly evaluate the competence. Then it helps us to make a action plan that we just discussed, right, just now. But what else is also there included in that is that when we are able to look at the other human being as being similar to me, like if I see the other person, and the other person also has a set of desires, other person also has a set of thoughts and all these things, and the other person also has the same potential for the right understanding as me. If I look at all these similarities in the self, not in the body, we're not looking at the body at the moment, we're looking at the similarities which are there in the self. When we start seeing these similarities in the self, then if you're able to see that the other person is also like me, because the other person also wants to be happy, the other person also um, is similar to me in the sense that He also wants to be happy. I also want to be happy. I lack some competence in some area. The other person also lacks some competence in some area. I have some competence in some area. The other person also has competence in some other area, maybe. So if you're able to see all these things on the level of the self, when you're talking about competence also, we're talking about the competence on the level of the self, about right understanding. So when we're able to see this similarity, then we feel related to the other, right? Many times in colleges and all that, we see that people who have the same kind of opinions feel related to each other. But that doesn't really always last for a very long time because the opinions may change. But if you're able to see the similarity on the basis of the basis of the self, in terms of the intention and competence and the fact that we both have the same potential for understanding, and we may be at different levels of understanding, but we both have the same potential of right understanding. And when we start seeing all this, then we start seeing that we are similar to each other. So that is the first thing about respect. And what happens when we do any other kind of evaluation, which is not the right evaluation, is that it creates a feeling of disrespect. Like, for example, over evaluation. If somebody keeps praising you, keeps saying that you're like, kind of keeps on flattering you or praising you, then at some point you may feel uncomfortable. In the beginning, it might feel good for some time, but then at some point you may start feeling uncomfortable. You might start feeling that, why is this person complimenting me so many times? He said it once, it was enough, but why did he keep on saying this again and again? Why did he do such a it starts becoming uncomfortable because you start feeling that it's not true also, right? You start feeling that what he's saying is not true. Either that, or you start feeling that whatever he's saying is true, but you get a little confused, and then you start over evaluating yourself also, thinking that what that person is saying is true, so then you begin to feel that that is true. But even in that case, your over evaluation, which the other person is doing, you start thinking that that itself is you, and that leads to a state of ego, which is also that over pride or over confidence, or all these things start showing up as side effects of that. So what we're saying is, over evaluation is also a kind of disrespect. So if the person is not able to rightly evaluate himself or herself, then there is a scope for that person to get into this trap of taking somebody else's over evaluation and assuming that that is their state. So if somebody says a lot of good things about somebody, like if somebody keeps on praising you, if you start feeling that that itself is you, then obviously it leads to that overconfidence or pride, or that kind of a feeling. And that doesn't really help you, right? That feels good for some time, but after some point, when you realize that that was not true, then you go into a feeling of depression. You feel that you are under evaluated, or you feel like less than what you are. So that is like a state of depression. So when you are in this over evaluation state, it leads to that overconfidence and ego and that kind of a thing. And that quickly turns into under evaluation when you start was not right evaluation. So then you start feeling very depressed because you start feeling that the other person was evaluating me for more than what I was. Now I start feeling that I'm less than what I am. So therefore, I start feeling very bad about myself. I feel that I'm worthless, or I feel that I'm not able to do even the basic things which I'm supposed to do. And I start getting these kind of thoughts. So that's because of under evaluation. And otherwise, evaluation is to evaluate for something which is not what it is. So basically, all these types of evaluation lead to some or the other side effect. The otherwise evaluation also makes you feel like you are in some other zone where you are not clear about what you are. You're not even clear of the fact that the human being is the self and the body. So in that case, it's like otherwise evaluation. So again, you're not clear about things, and then that leads to side effect of all kinds of different kinds of assumptions and preconditionings. So all these three are a form of disrespect, and they're not naturally acceptable. So whenever the evaluation is not right, it is disrespect. So even if it is over evaluation, it's disrespect because of the consequence of what happens. And also, of course, it is something where it's like somebody's flattering you or somebody's trying to boost your confidence so much that you start feeling that you are much better than what you are or much more than what you are, kind of. Like in some kinds of situations, the parents also do this for the child, thinking that they are giving love to the child. Like they call the child Raja Beta and these kind of things, right? So initially it looks like nothing is going to happen with this, right? There's nothing wrong with this. But then when the child starts assuming that he is the Raja or he is the king, then all kinds of problems come when he realizes that he is not of that level. Then he starts feeling that, you know, I'm much lower than what I was assuming myself to be. And then again, you go into under evaluation, where you start feeling very depressed about that you are not the king, you are not able to do all these things which you assumed that you could do. Like some people say, right, that if you have a dream and you want to fly, then you can fly, some things like that. So if you're not able to connect with the reality and see what the right evaluation is, then you will always be in some kind of different mindset where it's either over evaluation or under evaluation, and both ways you're in a kind of a assumption which may not be right, and that leads to unhappiness in either way, either with the ego or with the depression. So you can check for yourself in every interaction with others whether it is respect or disrespect, whatever your interaction is happening, right? You can just kind of analyze that interaction and then look at whether it is right evaluation, over evaluation, under evaluation, or otherwise evaluation. And over time, you can start making the right evaluation for yourself also and for others also. That will lead to a state of harmony. So this is what we have just discussed, that over evaluation, evaluating for more than what it is, leads to a state of ego, and under evaluation or evaluating someone or yourself for less than what it is, that is leading to a state of depression. And it is natural that you'll have a cycle of these two things going on whenever you're comparing with the outside. Like suppose in your class, if you got the first rank in the class, and then you start believing something because of that result, you start believing that you can do anything in the world. And then you try to do something which is not practical, and then you start doing it, and then you realize that it's not possible. Then you might go into this depression state that you're not able to do anything, which is not true. You're able to do many things, but then you start assuming that you can't do anything or you're good for nothing, kind of. So that goes into the other extreme. So either extreme is not right, and it doesn't lead to any result as such in terms of your work also. And in terms of your feeling also, it leads to fluctuation or mood swings or these kind of things, what they call, right? Instability. So how do you be stable in these situations? So the key is that you can either be in this red kind of a state, which is shown on the left, this graph where you keep fluctuating between this ego and depression based on what others give you in terms of feelings. Like if somebody made you on the first rank, then you suddenly go into the top level of the red, where you feel that you can do anything kind of, or you're just evaluating yourself for more than what it was. And then suppose in some other field you didn't do well, or something happened, somebody scolded you or something, then you may go into this lower state, this depression state. And therefore, when you're operating in this mode, then your state of um, like this over evaluation or under evaluation, which is happening in terms of others telling you that you are this or that, that is leading to your fluctuation. And that doesn't have to be the case, because inputs from outside will come in both ways. Some inputs will be of that flattering type, or that type where they make you feel much better than what you are. And some inputs will be such that they make you feel much worse than what you are, right? So inputs from outside cannot be really controlled by you. But once you get all these inputs, you don't have to swing like this red graph. You can be like the dotted line in the middle, which means that even if these inputs are coming, you can have a proper reference point for yourself where you're rightly able to evaluate yourself. If you're able to do this, then regardless of what inputs are coming, you will be able to take the inputs without getting um, into a state of unhappiness or any of these states, ego and depression. You will be always able to rightly evaluate. So even if somebody gives you some critical remarks also, then you will be able to take those gracefully and be able to, like, if you get some inputs, critical inputs can be useful also, right? Some feedback which people may give may be very useful also, or it may not be useful. But you will have the proper ability to judge those inputs and take them or not take them without your mood changing, without feeling good or bad about it. Like if somebody tells you a lot of negative criticism, then you might still feel that the points that were mentioned, two or three of those points, would actually help you. So you can take those, but you will not have any mood swing. You will not feel suddenly very bad about yourself that this person has said these things. Or if somebody flatters you, you won't feel more than what you are. You will be able to take that, but you'll still be able to be like the black line in the middle. So you're able to have this kind of strength to take all these inputs without being swayed by them. So if you're able to see that, that is called right evaluation. And right evaluation, when we do for ourselves, then it is creating a feeling of respect within ourselves, for ourselves. And when we have this feeling for others also, where we're able to rightly evaluate the other in terms of their natural acceptance, which is their intention, and in terms of their competence, then it leads to a feeling of respect for the other. So you can see the implications. These are the implications of disrespect, which is this red kind of a fluctuation. And the black line in between is a representation of the right evaluation. So wrong evaluation on the right, you can see that if it goes extreme, then it can even lead to suicide, right? At some point. And right evaluation is always a source of stability, because that is something which can sustain. If you're able to see the right evaluation, then regardless of what inputs come from outside, you'll always be able to rightly evaluate yourself and rightly evaluate the other, and therefore make a program of action. So this is about respect and looking at disrespect also. So right evaluation makes you feel very confident without feeling overconfident, right? It's a feeling of self-confidence. So if there's any question or comment about this, we can take up now. You can ask in the chat or with the mic, either way. Or if there's any incident you want to share which led to this kind of fluctuation, which you were able to sort out, or which you're able to at least see in this light. Because just being able to see this leads to a lot of kind of comfort. You feel comfortable once you're able to see that this kind of thing is possible, where we can be in harmony simply by rightly evaluating ourselves. So if there's anything which you want to share, or any comment or question about this, then we can take it.
Arjun, I have a question. Sometimes we would like to compliment a child, no, for some of his good deeds. So, to what extent, how do we know that it will not be over evaluation?
Actually, like, there's no problem with the giving the compliment. The problem is when that compliment is taken by the child in a way that he starts over evaluating himself. So from the point of view of giving the compliment, it's not only about giving the compliment, but how that person is taking the compliment. So if that person is in this right evaluation kind of state, then whatever you give, it won't matter, right? They will just take the inputs, whatever they have to take, and they will be able to improve their things also without getting into this overconfidence or depression. So what we can do is try to communicate to the child about this fact that to try to show him or her what we mean by this right evaluation and self-confidence and all this. And then when we give the compliment, then the child is able to rightly place how to take that compliment. But without that, we can still give some compliment, but try not to overdo it, because we don't know how the other person would take it. And same way with the criticism also, we want to try to make it such that we're able to tell that person what is going wrong without trying to get the feelings in the way. Like, that's why instead of scolding somebody, we suggest that you try to help that person to understand. And in that process, then you give some compliments also, and you give some pointers on how to correct the mistakes also. So if you have a balance with all this, then most probably it won't be taken in that way. Only when we overdo it, right, then it becomes a little problematic, especially when the person is fluctuating already. And the more the person is fluctuating in this red line, the more problem it will create for that person. Like, some people are very sensitive to criticism, right? So they may have more of this fluctuation. Some people are able to take everything. They don't feel bad about even if somebody scolds and all that. So depending on that person's nature also, we can judge and accordingly see things. And when we're doing anything in the public, like in front of everybody, then that also sometimes leads to these feelings. So we can be a little more subtle about it rather than being making a very big deal about either of them, either the compliment or the criticism. And basically we try to help the person understand. Basically, we try to help the person understand self-confidence and this right evaluation. That would be ideal.
Okay, Ajay. I think there is some question in the YouTube. Somebody was giving the message.
Okay.
Yes, YouTube, we have a question. that many people always do over-evaluation. And actually, no one likes to be undervalued. So Sonali Ghate is asking that how do we do the correct evaluation?
So correct evaluation is mostly like if you're talking about um, trying to like any interaction with anyone else, if you're having a neutral interaction, then it is more comfortable. When we're having that sudden burst of excitement or sudden burst of criticism or something like that, then it leads to a lot of fluctuation in the mood, right, of the person. Like you might have some speeches or some things which happen where there's a lot of fluctuation. Suddenly somebody feels very happy about somebody's work, praises that person a lot, and then suddenly if somebody finds out that something was done wrong, then suddenly the person may start scolding the person a lot. So when we have more of this kind of fluctuation, then it creates more of a problem. But if we are ourselves able to see this and rightly evaluate ourselves, then automatically we may be more stable. So we are able to help the person to see their what they are doing well also, and also help them to see what they are not doing so well. So we are helping the other person also to balance out and rightly evaluate themselves. So even if we are doing this sudden burst of lot of over evaluation and all that, then it'll be a problem only if the other person takes it like that. So if the other person is able to like look at things in this neutral way such that they're able to rightly evaluate themselves and the other, then that won't create a problem for that person. But most people will not be in that state, so therefore we want to try to prevent our actions from leading to the other person's problem. So we don't want to be boring also. You don't have to be boring as such. Neutral or this stable doesn't have to be boring. Being in harmony doesn't have to be boring. It's actually a state where we are very comfortable within. And that can be communicated to the other also, such that the other also feels comfortable within and is able to look at the positive aspects and negative aspects in a very neutral perspective and be in harmony. Feel happy about things also, not just be like a boring kind of thing. Be happy about things also, but not overdo this kind of compliments or criticism. Like I remember many of in my school time, some teachers used to be they used to have a lot of mood swing kind of, where one moment they'll be very happy about somebody's work and one moment they'll start even um, you know at that time slapping the people also. So that kind of a situation can be very disturbing, right? But if we have somewhere where there's already balance and there is also some kind of what do you say, where the class is not really boring as such, it's interesting, and at the same time there is this little bit of compliments, little bit of this constructive ideas for improvement and all that. When you have a balance of all this, then it is much more comfortable. So it is much easier to take also, and it's much easier for even people to ask question also or to do something, right? Because they don't have to feel that scared to ask or scared to communicate. Like even here we are seeing that it's a little bit formal, too formal. It could be more, like more informal. So that will happen over time once the people have more trust also on our intention and look at our competence and observe and see like what we're talking about and all that. So I think
Yes.
I think the
Yeah.
key is to just I think the key is to just enjoy the process and at the same time not overdo these compliments and these criticism kind of things. To be in balance and enjoy the process and spread your the information which you're teaching or which we are learning or whatever is happening, just have a enjoyable process where we also give compliments and we also tell the people their faults, but then we don't make a very big deal about either of them.
So, good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, I'm Tamil from Kovilpatti, Tamil Nadu.
Okay.
So, when we do over evaluation, that leads to ego, right, sir? Similarly, under evaluation, we may lead to depression. And when we do the right evaluation, we'll get self-confidence, and there'll be no fluctuations in our mind, right? But when we do the otherwise evaluation, we will be in which state actually? Ego or depression?
Actually, it's not that over-evaluation is only a state of ego. It may start with that state of ego, and then as the person realizes that that evaluation was not correct, then that person loses his reference of what is correct evaluation. So therefore, that person may go into depression. Like for example, suppose a student got the first rank in the exam, right? Then suppose all the teachers and all the principals and all the people are giving a lot of awards and a lot of attention to that child. Then suppose the next time, or suppose in some other field that person did not excel and did not get the first place. Suppose that person tried a running race and came last. Suppose something happened like that. Then that person may suddenly go into depression, because that person may think that, everybody else is better than me, right? Or something else like that. Some other event may trigger something else which gives a different evaluation. So suppose that person came first in the class. That time that person would have gone in this ego state where they think that they are more than what they are. And then suppose in the running race that person came last, so then that person started thinking that, I'm good for nothing. I came last in the race. Not even one person was worse than me. So then this leads to a state of depression. Or even in the same case, even when the person has come first, then when that person goes to the college and comes 20th in the class.
That depends on the situation.
Yeah. So even if that person came first in the class in the school, and then when that person went to the college, then of course there was maybe more competition or something, and that person came 10th. Then that person will start feeling that again, there's something wrong. So if we are very dependent on the outside situation, then when we get compliments, when we get a lot of compliments or a lot of this thing, when we start taking it in and start feeling that we are better than what we are, then it leads to this ego state. And then the moment we stop getting those, or we start getting some other input from outside, like which we are taking and assuming that to be true. Like just because we came last in the running race doesn't mean that we are good for nothing, right? That is an assumption that we have made. So in the same way, whatever assumptions we are making based on the inputs from outside, they will either be evaluating for more or less or right. Only these three are possible, right? The input coming from outside can be either more than what it is or less than what it is or equal to what it is. So when it is more, then that person goes into ego. When it is less, that same person may go into depression.
Yeah.
So even with otherwise evaluation, it's the same thing. Anything other than right evaluation will lead to this kind of fluctuations.
So either in ego or in depression, right?
Yeah, and that circle keeps continuing unless we are able to start rightly evaluating ourselves and rightly evaluating the other also.
I think that depends on their attitude then, right?
Attitude, as in we're talking about like rightly understanding this first, what we mean by right evaluation. So when we're talking about right evaluation, we're talking about looking at our intention and our competence and being able to rightly evaluate that, and also look at the other person's intention, the other person's competence, and rightly evaluate that as well. So if you're able to do this much, and we're able to do this consistently, then it will have this state of self-confidence, which will not fluctuate.
Okay, then we should not compare our situation with others then.
Even if we compare, it would not affect our state of feeling. Suppose we are comparing for the sake of trying to understand who or like what to learn from the other or something like that, then we are just comparing those things, but we are not getting like our mood is not changing or our feeling is not changing because of that. Like suppose we are comparing with, suppose I came second in the class and I'm feeling not so good about it just because of that. That is a different case. But if I am, say, objectively trying to learn something which I want to learn for the sake of learning, then I am looking at what I have to learn and I'm just focusing on that. And I'm feeling that my feeling is not changing, but I want to learn a certain thing and therefore I'm putting effort for it and trying to learn that. That is a different kind of state of being where we are feeling something totally different. We are feeling comfortable within, and we are still trying to learn something. The other state where the person came second, he wants to come first, and because of that, there's some kind of pressure build up, some kind of tension, and all that. In that case, the person is trying to get that feeling of being first, that feeling of ego. It would lead to that, right?
Okay.
He's not trying to learn the subject or trying to do the particular task. He's more or less trying to feel that feeling that the first person is supposed to feel.
Okay.
So that is very different.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, understand. Thank you.
Yeah. So when we have any kind of otherwise evaluation or under evaluation or over evaluation, then it keeps leading to this cycle of ego and depression, and it keeps going on as long as we are taking outputs from outside and using them to create our feeling inside. But our feeling inside can be independent of all this, and we can take inputs which we want to take. Like suppose somebody is telling you 2 or 3 tips to improve something, and you feel that those tips are useful for you, then you can take those 2 or 3 tips without feeling depressed about it, without feeling bad about the fact that the other person has criticized or given you some tips. And same way, when somebody gives you some compliment also, you can take that without feeling over evaluated. You can take that without feeling more than what you are. So that's all we're saying, that as somebody who's receiving this, you can have a proper placement of this. As in, whatever is coming, you can take whatever input you want to take, objective input. And about the feeling, you don't have to change your feeling based on these situations. Like if somebody scolds you and tells you these 3 points that you should have done better, versus if somebody tells you in a nice way, obviously you will prefer the one who says it in a nice way. But then even if somebody scolds you, it would not really affect your feeling if you're in self-confidence. So you can see the difference, right?
Yeah. Yes.
You'll still take the inputs if you like the inputs. If you feel that they're right, you'll still take the inputs. But whether somebody scolds you and gives you those inputs, which are still good, or whether that person tells you in a very nice way, either way, if you want to take the inputs, you can take. But if you're in self-confidence, then you will take those inputs without feeling bad about that thing that this person has scolded and it made me feel bad, and therefore I went into depression. And because of that, I may not even take the inputs. I may not even do what would be good for me, right?
Yes.
So if you're in self-confidence, you will be able to do better outside also, not only inside.
Okay.
So it is very powerful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So I think we'll close now. If there's any immediate question or comment, we can take, and then I think we can close.
Arjun, I have a sharing. I have told before also, when I teach my students also my own example. I think in 12th I got good marks, and I was a topper in my friends group, and I got into engineering college, a government college. And so no, everybody praised me, my family members, my friends. I was the only one who got selected. But see that then no, I didn't know about these knowledge that time. My ego has gone high, and when I went over there were students who were more brighter than me. And no, then I could feel that I went into a depressive state, that I could not concentrate in my studies. So that's an example in my own experience, and then it took some time for me to come out of it. So it's that's
Yes.
it happens, like no, we feel that we are something great. It is actually when the other people tells, they are also not knowing that our ego goes high. But
Right. They are also not doing it intentionally. See, the thing
intentionally,
is that they are doing it just
to
because,
compliment me. Yeah, I
yeah,
have done. But if I was in a stable, if I would have been stable, that situation would not have come.
true. And even the other people, their intention is not to hurt or to create problem for the other person, but they are doing it because they think that that would be the right
Would-
way. But
Right way,
then,
yeah.
I mean, they don't realize that this is a kind of a disrespect,
Yeah,
because it's a common assumption that if you're complimenting, then how can it be disrespect?
disrespect, yeah. Though I went in very high this thing, and when I saw the other students, it was, I am just an average student.
So this
Then
average or this evaluation also is on the basis of some comparison with the others.
comparison, yeah.
So rather than even having that comparison, we can just look at some other things which we are able to do properly and just focus on those, because everybody won't be equally skilled in every field, right? So like for example, if I consider comparing myself to the other students in the college also, then I would also consider to be an average student, not very neither on the very high side or neither on the very low side, like around 7 out of 10 kind of side. So when I look at that also, then I can see that, that is one evaluation which is related to a certain skill set. And that doesn't have to be my evaluation as a human being, right? That can be the evaluation for that particular skill set. Like how I was just mentioning that case where somebody has got the first rank in the academics and came last in the running race. So, like that, if we keep looking at different skill sets, then obviously there will be a lot of difference from person to person based on what they're naturally good at and what skills they've developed and all that. But as a human being, when we are looking at the right evaluation, then it is much simpler actually. We are looking at our intention and our competence on the level of the self, not even of the body or skills or all those things. We are looking at our intention, looking at our natural acceptance or intention, and looking at our competence in terms of our level of understanding and potential, looking at our potential for the right understanding. If you're seeing only this much, then it is much more comfortable. And then you see that, okay, for different skills, you may have different levels and different people may be good at different things, and all that we are able to rightly place.
Yeah, nice, Arjun. But that age, we think that getting marks is the main thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not so much to do with age, it's more to do with the level of understanding at that time.
At
Because
that time.
like some people may have developed a higher level of understanding at a younger age, or some people at an older age also may not have developed
That understanding,
that
no?
understanding, and that keeps that depends from person to person, also based on the inputs what they got, and also based on how receptive they are to trying to understand and trying to do all these things. So what we are just suggesting is that we continuously keep exploring. And when we are saying explore, then we're talking about trying to look at these proposals from the view of our natural acceptance, without trying to get influenced from other perspectives from outside, or without getting influenced by sensation also. So we are trying to do it in the most pure way, which is to ask our natural acceptance and try to get the answer from there. So if we keep doing this while our situations in life are going on, then those life situations will actually help us to develop our understanding also. Right?
Yeah, yes. Later on, I understood that that is not the final this thing. They're more
Yeah,
than good studies and more than this thing. I could make it.
Right. So it was useful to
Yeah, it was
figure
really
that out.
useful.
And that happens with everybody, because everybody is on the same path of trying to understand. And based on certain situations, sometimes certain situations help them to understand. And when you look back also, you get certain insights, right? So that can be useful. And as long as we are working on developing this right understanding, our process of understanding will be faster, and that would help us also to feel more in harmony, feel more happy.
Only after understanding this content, I could relate those incidents now. These were the things.
True. So I think we'll close now.
Yes. Yeah, it's time also. So it's really nice to have
a nice discussion.
Session. Certainly. And we'll hope to meet all of you again soon and keep exploring and keep reflecting. Thank you, everybody. So, namaste, sabhi ko.
Namaste.
Namaste.